Hot take. A lot of re-ranker benchmarks are measuring theater, not value.
That sounds harsh, but it is mostly true. If your benchmark is built wrong, a re-ranker can look useless, even when it would save your RAG system in production.
So, what is a good re-ranker benchmark actually supposed to measure?
One thing above all, ranking lift inside a realistic candidate set. Not abstract retrieval quality, not a giant leaderboard score. The question is simple. Given the documents your retriever hands over, does the re-ranker move the right evidence to the top often enough to improve the final answer?
And that sounds obvious, but teams still miss it. Why?
Because they benchmark the re-ranker on candidate lists that are too clean, too easy, or too broken. In both cases, you hide the real value. A re-ranker only has leverage when the right document is present, but not already in the perfect spot.
Give me a concrete failure mode.
Say your retriever returns top 20 chunks for a support bot. In a toy benchmark, the relevant chunk is almost always in the top 3, and the rest are junk. Your re-ranker gains almost nothing, so people conclude re-ranking is not worth the latency. But in production, the relevant chunk often lands around rank 8, mixed with near matches from other products. That is exactly where re-ranking matters.
So, candidate quality is the whole game.
It is a huge part of it. A re-ranker cannot rescue documents that never made the list, and it cannot show much lift if the retriever already did a perfect job. The benchmark needs candidates with enough recall to include the truth, but enough ambiguity to make ordering hard.
That sounds like a narrow middle zone. Too easy, and the re-ranker looks decorative. Too hard, and it looks powerless.
Exactly. A good benchmark measures performance in that middle zone, because that is where system design decisions happen. Do you spend latency budget on re-ranking, or on a bigger retriever, or on more context tokens? Bad benchmarks push you toward the wrong trade-off.
What should the benchmark score then? Just hit rate at 1?
Not just that. Measure whether the top few results contain the best supporting evidence for generation. In practice, that means metrics tied to answerable context, like whether the needed chunk moves into the top K your generator will actually see. If your model reads 5 chunks, top 5 matters more than top 50.
So benchmark the re-ranker against the downstream window, not against some generic retrieval metric.
Right. If your generator consumes 6 passages, test the re-ranker on its ability to improve those 6. Also track answer quality on a representative task set, because sometimes one moved document changes the entire response from wrong to grounded.
Let us make this real. Say I am building internal doc search for engineers. What would a practical benchmark look like?
Take a few hundred real questions from logs. For each question, build candidate sets using your actual first stage retriever, maybe top 20 or top 50. Label which chunks are truly sufficient to answer the question, not merely related. Then compare the baseline order versus re-ranked order on whether a sufficient chunk enters the top N that your answer model reads.
And where do teams usually cheat without meaning to?
They create candidates by merging outputs from many systems, and then pretend that is the re-ranker's normal input. Or they hand-label only obvious positives and ignore confusing near duplicates. That inflates scores and removes the hard judgment calls re-rankers are built for.
So the benchmark stops being operational and turns into a demo reel.
Yes, and demos do not pay for latency. A real benchmark should preserve the messy parts. Duplicated chunks, stale docs, partial answers, naming collisions, and cases where one keyword match is tempting, but wrong.
Give me another scenario where a bad benchmark hides value.
Imagine a legal RAD assistant. The retriever pulls 10 clauses mentioning termination. Only one clause is from the current contract version. A weak benchmark labels all 10 as relevant because they mention the same concept. The re-ranker gets no credit for putting the current clause first, even though that single move prevents a dangerous answer.
That is the power shift, right? The benchmark says all good. The user gets exposed anyway.
Exactly. Good re-ranker benchmarks measure discriminative relevance, not loose topical similarity. The best item is not just on topic. It is the one that makes the answer correct, specific, and defensible.
What about negative examples? People tend to obsess over finding positives.
Strong negatives are essential. You want hard negatives that look plausible. Same product name, older version, adjacent policy, duplicate paragraph with one crucial difference. If your negatives are obviously wrong, the re-ranker never has to prove it can separate truth from temptation.
And that separation is where the business value shows up.
Yes, in RAG, winners are the systems that surface the right evidence under pressure, not the ones that look tidy in offline charts. A benchmark should reveal whether re-ranking improves trust when the retrieval set is noisy, crowded, and realistic.
So, if I had to compress this into a checklist, what are the must-haves?
Use real candidate sets from your retriever. Ensure the true evidence is present often enough to be movable. Include hard near-miss negatives. Score success at the cutoff your generator actually uses. And validate on answer outcomes, not just ranking metrics.
Which means the benchmark is not asking, is this model smart in the abstract? It is asking, does this model change my system's behavior where it counts?
Exactly. A good re-ranker benchmark measures leverage. If it cannot show when ordering changes answers, it is not benchmarking a re-ranker. It is benchmarking your ability to avoid reality.